Statement of Nikki Kulshan. I've always taken pride in my willingness to try new things, to explore, to dare to master new activities. I expected that life would throw me an unanticipated curve once in a while. That's what makes it interesting. What I didn't expect was that extreme ski and sport would create hidden dangers in the middle of their biking trail and then fail to provide any warning to unsuspecting victims. I should not have to suffer because of their extreme callousness and disregard for safety. Sometimes I think I missed my era. I should have grown up during the Renaissance. Growing up, my friends nicknamed me Nikki Cool Man, because I was so willing to get in on anything new, within reason. Form a new sports team or organize an outdoor adventure, start a club or attend a concert or lecture, or just get together a group to discuss current events, even protest for the latest cause or against the latest injustice. Whatever came along, I was like cool, man. My interest in most of these things didn't last too long, since I was on to the next thing before others were back for a second round. But even if something didn't work out or was a complete failure, I felt the attempt expanded my horizons and prepared me for the next exploration. After I graduated from Knievel High School in Bowling Green, Kentucky, I decided to attend college far from my home, just to see a new place. A literal stab of my finger on a map took me to Alki City, Washington, where I earned a bachelor's degree in general studies liberal arts at State College. During the next 6 years, the location was ideally suited to exploration of the great outdoors, and every weekend was devoted to some new escapade. Zip lining, hiking, skiing, snowboarding, rock climbing, parasailing and mountain biking. I tried it all. Whenever I took something up, I went all in, learning everything I could about the sport and purchasing the newest and best equipment. Where did the money come from for all of this? Fortunately, my parents were very successful and I was their only child, so they were generous in funding my education and my other pursuits, at least at first. But you know how parents are, always trying to instill values and build character. When my grades took a dive my junior year, they put me on a strict budget and suggested I hit the books more on the weekends. At their insistence, I minored in accounting. After all, Mom said, you have to eat. For a while, I lived the life of a drudge, and after graduation it looked like the need to support myself was going to make that existence my new normal. But a funny thing happened on the way to the grindstone. One of my many hobbies was collecting trading cards, and I picked up new product every once in a while, whenever I had some bubblegum money. On a whim, I started opening my new packs on a YouTube channel I created called Cool Acting King $. My commentary on the items I discovered, and my dynamic personality, really caught on with folks. I found myself reviewing more and different items, over different platforms, and with a growing number of followers. Soon producers were sending me things for free and paying me to comment on their stuff, good or bad, although they preferred good. My natural curiosity was a real benefit for this type of work, since I researched the history and science behind various items and used that knowledge to enhance my reviews. I think my consumers really appreciated that added information. The hobby became a profession, influencer, and then the profession became a gold mine. By the time I graduated, I was not only supporting myself with my influencing activities, I was raking in millions. Influencing requires a positive, outgoing persona. To keep users watching my product analyses, I started to include them in all of my activities. The income from product reviews allowed me to resume my exploration of life, especially its physical challenges. If you go to one of my platforms, you might see me try indoor skydiving in Tequila, or succeed at rock climbing in Icicle Creek Canyon near Leavenworth. It's all there. You can even see my spectacular fail at half-pipe snowboarding on Crystal Mountain. I think people like that I will share with them, whether I succeed or fail. I have helmet and vest cameras that help record the action when my hands aren't available to hold my phone. Ours is a statistics-obsessed society, so I wear a chalut when I'm out doing physical activities. This tracking app allows me to upload details about hikes, runs and rides, using GPS and biometric sensors. You can share your speed and proficiency on a particular course and provide data like your heart rate, blood pressure and respiration. You can note the performance of other users, or receive comments about your own achievements. There are even friendly competitions between runners or bikers. You can try to become the new king or queen of a particular trail segment. I've uploaded my results to a few of these leaderboards over the years, Whenever I have a particularly strong ride or hike, I share all results with my followers, because that is an integral part of understanding how I'm reacting to the experience. But I don't do risky things or take unnecessary chances just to enhance the results. In fact, I usually forget that I have the Shaluan and I rarely comment on my performance, although I will let others know if I send the result to a leaderboard. The idea that my online brand would take stupid chances for ratings is ludicrous. If you look at my sites, you will see that I always stress the opposite. I include materials about proper preparation for an activity and things to avoid when participating. I highlight safety and often include a disclaimer, discouraging watchers from attempting an event unless they are prepared. And I certainly don't know or use any so-called Shalu hand signals, as Dakota Booker suggests. My first contact with the extreme resort at Pato was several years ago while I was in college. I went up there several times a year when I was a sophomore and a junior again. After that grade problem I described, groups of us would travel up there to ski and snowboard on the developed slopes, or to cross-country ski and snowshoe in the backcountry. I never tried summer skiing and I don't believe they had snowmaking equipment at that time, although I couldn't say for sure if it was part of their operations. I never heard or saw the cannons in action. The college also had a Pato Adventure Society that I joined for a couple of years. We would hike, horseback ride or mountain bike in the area during the spring and summer. I've hiked and mountain biked on portions of the Wonder Trail, although not on the specific section where the accident occurred. Although it was challenging, there certainly weren't any huge holes or dangerous features on the trail. They allow horses on most of it, which usually means that the terrain is pretty tame. There are several other trails up there that are a far greater challenge, some of them blazed by pretty radical mountain bikers. But you know what you are getting into if you choose to head up one of those old school taco fests. Although I took a break from mountain biking after my second junior year, a couple of my meat friends convinced me to take some rides with them in mid-2018. I dusted off my old 29er full squish and joined them on the trails. My college bike was still in pretty good shape and there was nothing in its operation that made me think that I needed to upgrade it or do more than routine maintenance. We rode some trails out on the Olympic Peninsula and a few user-built courses near Mount St. Helens. I'm not sure those were actually open, legal trails, but nobody said anything or tried to stop us. It was fun and I enjoyed sharing video clips and Shalu data from the rides with my followers. I received some negative feedback, complaining that I had downgraded to WIMP experiences, without the heart-pounding action of previous activities. That bothered me a little, but most of the comments were positive. I reminded myself that these experiences were ultimately for me and my personal growth, so user comments shouldn't affect what I do or how to do it. On May 17, 2019, I spent several grueling hours opening items, coming up with new comments and reactions for some of my sponsored finds. Believe me, having fresh and interesting takes on all these products can be harder than it looks, so I decided to hit the outdoors the next day and do something just for me. Of course, I planned to record my me time, just in case it turned out to be of interest to my customers. The comments about my bike ride still kind of ate at me. Maybe I was getting soft, so I decided to find a segment with a little more chunder than a machine-built trail. I remembered the Wonder Trail and decided to try a new segment, starting at a different point that would take me by the cliffs near the extreme resort. Friends told me that area had some serious sections, filled with baby heads near a drop-off, but nothing about the path was particularly sketchy. If things were exciting, I planned to upload the video and the Shalu data to my platforms. If it was meh, then I'd keep the experience to myself. I really didn't know what to expect. Although use of the Wonder Trail is free, you need a parking permit to leave your car at any of the trailheads. I bought a one-day pass online for $5 and printed it out from the Extreme Resorts website. When you reach the purchase part of the site, there is a little box of tiny type where you can read the terms and conditions of use. I believe the purchasing portion of the site and the terms and conditions are accurately depicted in Exhibit 5. I scrolled through part of the terms, but it was a bunch of stuff about not using electric bikes, not wearing open-toed shoes, not destroying property, not releasing parrots on the trail, blah, blah, blah. I didn't see any specific warnings about trail conditions and no releases of liability or waivers. After I got about 8-10 paragraphs into the scroll, I hit I have read and agree and printed the permit. The next day, I slept in and got a late start on the several-hour drive to the trailhead. By the time I got there, it was mid-afternoon and the sun was already creeping down toward the big ridge on the mountain. I glanced at the generic warning signs at the trailhead, which are shown in Exhibit 6. There was no specific information about trail conditions and nothing about a massive hole in the trail. You can go either uphill or downhill from this trailhead. Like most riders, I choose to head down the ridge first, so I could work up more speed to get over any features I encountered. The trail starts in thin forest, but goes in and out of the trees as you ride. You are in full sun part of the time and then, sometimes suddenly, into deep shadow. The trail was challenging, lots of ups and downs along the side of the cliff, sharp curves and some bumpy, rocky sections. But there was nothing an experienced rider like me couldn't handle. Because it was so late in the day, I only passed a few other riders. I didn't recognize any of them, and two hikers who politely stepped to the side of the trail to let me go through. About 5 miles in, as I was entering the lower part of this trail segment, I came into the first of 3 uphill curves, spaced about 75 feet apart. A portion of the trail is shown in Exhibit 2, just to give you a feel for how narrow it is. I encountered several horseback riders in this area and I carefully rode by them. The last horse was acting up, rearing and snorting before I came anywhere near it. Since the rider, who I learned later was Dakota Booker, obviously didn't know how to handle a horse, I felt the best thing to do was to get by as quickly as I could. Shortly after I made my way past Booker, the trail rounded the last curve and opened to a very short straight with a slight incline. The left-hand side of the trail hugged the rock face and I went from bright sun in the curve to deep shade on the straight. As my eyes were adjusting, I heard a sudden roar above me, like a semi-truck was dropping off the ledge above, right on top of me. A few seconds later, a blast of sharp ice pellets smacked me in the face. I wasn't wearing sun goggles or eye protection, and the blast blinded me. Stunned, I wasn't sure what was happening, and then the bottom dropped out. I tried to brake until I could regain my sight, but I realized that my bike was no longer in contact with the trail. It felt like I fell a long way, although I have no way of knowing how long. In a panic, I tried to turn toward the bank side of the trail, since I didn't know if I had gone over the side of the drop-off. My turning efforts only succeeded in tipping me and my bike to the left, so I crashed into the bottom of the trail with the full force on my left side, the bike coming down hard on top of me. You should have heard the sound the rocks made as they tore into my body and the loud snap as my leg bone fractured in 3 places. I bounced once, twice, then came to rest on top of the trail just outside the hole that is depicted in the photograph in Exhibit 3. I lay there in shock until someone noticed me and called resort staff to stretcher me out. After this event, I endured several surgeries to repair and straighten my leg and my left arm, which also fractured. Although I have completely recovered physically, I still bear permanent emotional scars from that horrible day. The sound of a loud truck starting up, or the rush of cold air against my face, triggers my PTSD and causes me to hide in my room for days. As a result, I cannot participate in any activities which might involve a recurrence of my symptoms. My adventurous days are over. Fans can be fickle. My lack of new content caused them to drift to other influencers. My sponsors have dried up, in amounts to be proven in the damages portion of this trial. All of these woes, physical, emotional and financial, are the sole responsibility of Extreme Resort and its reckless activities. I hope the jury will recognize this, find them fully liable and make them pay.